we're going to be taking a Midwestern tour along Interstate 74. Come on, let's go. Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing the actual Interstate 74, the one that runs in the Midwest. And sure, while it is a boring road, it actually is quite useful as it helps connect the Quad Cities with Cincinnati and also goes through another big city, Indianapolis. And Interstate 74 also comes really close to some other smaller interstates, but for some reason they're not mentioned at all whenever Interstate 74 gets close to them. And if you're wondering about the Interstate 74 North Carolina, please check out these 4 videos instead, because that's what that Interstate 74 is basically consist of. So let's get started with the Midwestern Interstate 74. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with 1 free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As we can see here, this is the map of Interstate 74 as it runs from the junction with Interstate 80 just outside the Quad Cities all the way down to a junction with Interstate 75 just north of downtown Cincinnati. And this blue portion is the part that I've been on personally. So with that, I'm going eastbound on Interstate 74. So we begin here on Interstate 80 itself, where we can see that Interstate 74 is being signed for a couple of the Quad Cities. And I do like how Iowa Dot is telling us that if you want to take Interstate 74 for through traffic or long distance traffic, it is better to stay on 80 here than to take Interstate 74 through the 2 Quad Cities, as that's for mainly local traffic. Once we go onto Interstate 74 itself, we meet with US Highway 6 westbound, as US 6 eastbound is now going to be concurrent with us. And if you want to check out a series on US 6, it's in the top right corner here. Here we meet with US Highway 67, which will take you to the Mississippi River riverfront. And no, I'm not going to be doing the meme. And here we are entering into the state of Illinois, as we're meeting with Illinois Highway 92. And once again, we're seeing 6th Avenue to 7th Avenue, and no, I'm not going to be doing the meme. Here we meet with Interstate 280, and we're now going to be concurrent with the 280 eastbound as we head towards Peoria and Chicago respectively. And this is the ending to Interstate 280, and there are 280 end shields, so that is good by IDOT. And we can see that we're making sign east for Peoria, which is an awesome choice. And in fact, on our first mileage sign, we do get Peoria as our primary from 80 miles away. But guess what's being signed at random interchanges? Yep, we're getting Galesburg instead. You know what they say, you can't spell idiot with IDOT. Here in Galesburg, we're meeting with US Highway 34, which is being signed east for Kewanee and Monmouth, respectively. And I'm actually going to be doing US Highway 34 next week, so stay tuned for that. Our next mileage time, we're going to get Peoria still as our primary from 42 miles away this time. Here we meet with US Highway 150, and this is not the last time we'll be meeting with it, as it's in sign for Lewistown. And after that US 150 exit, we are now getting our first mention of Indianapolis from 243 miles away. That is awesome. Here on the outskirts of Peoria, we meet with both Interstate 474 and Illinois Highway 6. And if you want to check out a video on Illinois 6, it's in the top right corner here. It's actually one of my very first ever videos, so it is really old. And here in the downtown-ish area, we're meeting with US Highway 150 at what kind of looks like a turnpike-style interchange I would see on like Interstate 80 / the Ohio Turnpike, or Interstate 76 / the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And Interstate 74 actually becomes a quiet, look-like urban freeway here in downtown Peoria. So you basically go from looking at corn to a small, big city. So that is pretty cool. And on the other side of the river, we just get a pull through for Interstate 74 as we meet with US 150 and US Highway 24 here. And here meet the eastern terminus of Interstate 474 as they'll take you back over towards the Quad Cities. Now we're meeting with Interstate 155 a couple miles up the road, and it's being signed south for Lincoln. But I would prefer to see Springfield on here instead because Interstate 155 meets with 55 down in Lincoln, and this is the fastest way to Springfield from here if you're coming from Peoria. So like I said, I would replace that Lincoln with Springfield or dual sign Lincoln and Springfield. Because Lincoln by itself is just eh. While we can see that Interstate 74 is not getting signed east for Bloomington. No, that should be Indianapolis. But our next mileage time, we still get Indianapolis as our primary from 193 miles away. Now we're entering into the Bloomington area, aiming at Interstate 55. And let me tell you something. We're actually one exit south of Interstate 39, but for some reason IDOT is not telling us this. Instead, we're just getting 55 north for Chicago. Yeah, that is very important to know, but it would be nice to see 2 Interstate 39 here for those who need to take Interstate 39 to get to like Rockford. Here is where we split off from Interstate 55 as it's also now getting signed for Springfield, and we're now getting signed for Decatur because of US Highway 51. Here's where US 51 splits off from Interstate 74 to head south towards Decatur. And Champaign now becomes our secondary from 46 miles away and our primary at random interchanges. Here meet with US Highway 136 for the first time. And once we get to the Champaign area, we meet with Interstate 57, which is getting signed for Chicago and Memphis. And just like Interstate 39, we're actually one exit north of Interstate 72, but for some reason, once again, IDOT is not telling us this. I mean, I kind of get it if you're coming from like the Bloomington area. If you wanted to get to Springfield, you would probably better stay on Interstate 55 anyways. But once again, it still would be pretty cool to see 2 Interstate 72. Here meet with US Highway 45 being signed for Cunningham Avenue and Rantoul. Rantoul is a perfect choice for northbound. In our next mileage channel, we now get Danville as our secondary from 28 miles away. And guess what is being signed at random interchanges? Yep, you guessed it, we're not getting signed for Danville, which is IDOT being provincial. No, that should be Indianapolis now. Indianapolis will be the next biggest place we'll be passing through. No need to be provincial, IDOT. Here we meet with US Highway 150 for the last time in the Danville area. And we're now entering into the state of Indiana. Indiana is probably going to be way better than IDOT at random interchanges. In fact, on our first mileage time, we now get Indianapolis from 73 miles away. At random interchanges, Indiana is not fooling around and is signing Indianapolis as our primary. Here we meet with US Highway 41 being signed for Attica and Petersburg. Now we're meeting with US Highway 231 being signed for Linden and Crawfordsville. And if you go check out a video on US 231, it's in the top right corner here. And once we get closer to Indianapolis, we're now getting it still as our primary from only 19 miles away. I mean, you could start signing like Cincinnati now because we're only like 20 miles out from Indy. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 465, and this is actually the eastern terminus of US Highway 136. And we're going to be heading around the city on 465. But if you want to check out a full thorough track on Interstate 465, it's in the top right corner here. And skipping ahead to eastern Indianapolis, we're now splitting off from Interstate 465 as we're now concurrent with US Highway 421 as we're now getting signed south for Cincinnati, which is an awesome choice. In fact, Cincinnati is our primary from 102 miles away. And at random changes, we are now getting signed south for Cincinnati. And this error is always funny, and guess what? This is the most recent Street View, so they still have not fixed this US 421 error. Come on, man. Here in Greensburg, US 421 splits off from Interstate 74 to head south towards other places. And if you want to check out a video on US 421, it's in the top right corner here. And next mileage time, we still get Cincinnati as our primary from 59 miles away. Here we meet with US Highway 52, and 52 eastbound is not going to be joining with us as we still head towards Cincinnati. And we're now entering into the state of Ohio, so that is awesome. Here we meet with Interstate 275, and this is the easternmost point that I've been on Interstate 74. And we can see that 275 is being signed south for Kentucky. I mean, I would prefer to see like maybe Kentucky suburbs of Cincinnati, not just Kentucky by itself. Here's where 275 splits off from Interstate 74 to head towards Dayton, and we're still getting signed for Cincinnati respectively. Here we meet with US Highway 27 at exit 18, and we can see that we're now meeting with Interstate 75 and 3/4 of a mile. And once again, we're really close to Interstate 71, but like ODOT is not telling us that. We're just getting a mention of Interstate 75. Once again, it would be cool to know that we're meeting with another interstate, so put to Interstate 71 here, ODOT. Anyways, here's that eastern terminus of Interstate 74, as we can see that 27, 127, and 52 are all going to be joining with 75 southbound, while 75 northbound will be heading north towards Dayton. So with that, me turning around and doing westbound Interstate 74. So begin here on Interstate 75 itself, where you can see that 74 and 52 and 27 are all getting signed north for Indianapolis, which is a great choice. Here's where US 27 splits off from 74 and 52 as we're heading towards Indianapolis still. Here meet with Interstate 275 once again, and we're now have a concurrency with 275 southbound. Here's where 275 splits off from us as we're still getting signed west for Indianapolis. And here's my own picture of a mileage sign, a palindromic mileage sign, with Brookville being from 18 miles away and Indianapolis being 81, so yay. Here's my own picture of the Welcome to Indiana sign. And here's my own picture of US 52 splitting off from Interstate 74 to head toward Brookville and West Harrison. And here you are meeting Indiana Highway 3 in the Greensburg area. And when I went on my Springfield trip back in 2024, me and my family actually stopped in Greensburg, and I managed to get a picture of the Indiana 3 Interstate 74 interchange. So that was awesome. Here is my own picture of 421 rejoining with Interstate 74 here as it's getting signed south for Greensburg. And once we get closer to Indianapolis, we get something pretty rare by INDOT here, a terrible mileage sign on the interstates. For some reason, INDOT is favoring US 231 and signing Crawfordsville instead of signing, I don't know, like 74's next major city, Peoria. That would definitely be a better choice than being provincial here, INDOT. So why in the world are you being provincial? I'm gonna have to award you this, the rare INDOT-else trophy. This stinks. And here's my own picture of Interstate 74 rejoining with Interstate 465 here. And this is where 74 splits off from Interstate 465 as it's getting signed west for Peoria. And I have seen this interchange in person, it's just I didn't get a really good picture of it, sadly. But I did get a picture of our next mileage sign with Peoria as our primary from 190 miles away. See, I don't know why they were signing Crawfordsville as on the other side of Indianapolis. And here in Crawfordsville, we meet with US Highway 231 once again of my own picture of the interchange. And here we meet with US Highway 41 getting signed the same control cities that we saw going eastbound on Interstate 74. And we're now entering into the state of Illinois. And I do have my own picture of the sign, it's just I didn't manage to get the entire thing, only like the IS part of Illinois. Here we meet with US Highway 150 once again in the Danville area. Now we're meeting with US Highway 45 once again, and this is actually my own picture of the interchange, so that is pretty cool. Here we meet with Interstate 57 once again, gang sign for Chicago and Memphis, the same control cities that we saw going eastbound. And it's actually makes sense in this direction to mention to Interstate 72 because people will be using Interstate 74 from the east to get to Springfield and places in southern Illinois by taking Interstate 72 going this direction. And guess what? Once upon a time, they actually did that, as we got a mention of Interstate 72, but for some reason, as they're redoing this interchange now, they're completely neglecting 72, which stinks. Come on, man. Our next mileage sign, we now get Peoria still as our primary from 85 miles away. Here in the Bloomington area, we meet with US Highway 51, and 51 northbound is now going to be joining with us as we head towards Chicago and Rockford. And here's where we are now joining with Interstate 55 as we're getting signed for Chicago, Rockford, and Peoria, which is all great choices. Hey, look at that! Going this direction, we actually get a mention of Interstate 39. Well done, IDOT. That is awesome. And here we can see that Peoria is still our primary from 32 miles away. I mean, I'd rather see like maybe the Quad Cities or maybe even Des Moines now as our primary on this mileage sign, not just a two-liner here. Hear me with Interstate 155, and going this direction, Lincoln does make sense for the interstate. Hear me with Interstate 474, getting signed for the Quad Cities, or the Illinois side of the Quad Cities. As 74 will take into downtown Peoria, and we're going to be following Interstate 474 this time, so let us hop on to 474. Our first major exit on 474 is for US Highway 24 eastbound, and 24 westbound is not going to be concurrent with us. Here is where US 24 westbound splits off from Interstate 474 to head west toward Bartonville. And here is the exit for the Peoria Airport here. And then ways up the road, we end at Interstate 74, and the road continues as Illinois Highway 6 as it will take you to Chillicothe. As we're going to be heading west towards the Moline and Rock Island. But guess what? Our next mileage sign, Des Moines, is actually our primary from 257 miles away. So that is awesome to see. Hear me with US Highway 34 in Galesburg once again. And we still get Des Moines as our primary from 216 miles away. Coming with Interstate 80 and 280, and we can see that 74 and 280 are getting signed west for Moline and Rock Island, while 80 westbound is getting signed for Davenport. Yeah, I get Davenport is part of the Quad Cities, but I would prefer to see Des Moines instead because it is actually faster to stay on 80 here than to take 74 and 280 to get to Des Moines. So this is just IDOT just signing one of the Quad Cities for some reason. In our next mileage time, we actually do get Des Moines as our primary from 181 miles away, and we do get a mention of Interstate 80 as our secondary from 28, though that's for more of like 280 though. Here's where we split off from Interstate 280 as it's getting signed west for Des Moines and Rock Island, and 74 and US Highway 6 are getting signed for Moline. Here in Moline, we meet with Illinois Highway 92, and now we're meeting with US Highway 67 on the other side of the Mississippi River here. And we can see that 74 and 6 are making sign for Davenport, which is an okay choice. Here on the Iowa side, once again, we're meeting with US Highway 67. And here's where US 6 splits off from Interstate 74 to just do a couple of Kentucky treatments. And here we end at Interstate 80 once again as it's being signed for Des Moines and Chicago respectively. And Iowa DOT does give us a 74 and shield, so that is awesome by them. So with that, we end Interstate 74 and we move on to the way it should be. So these are all the places that I think should be signed on Interstate 74 in both directions. Going eastbound, I'd start off with, like they do, the local Quad Cities, and then Peoria, and then Indianapolis, and then Cincinnati. And then going westbound, I'd start off with Indianapolis, then Peoria, then the Quad Cities, and then once you get to Interstate 80, I would just go straight for Des Moines instead. So that ends Interstate 74. Thank y'all so much for watching this episode on Interstate 74 in the Midwest. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about this highway, and this definitely was sure a fun video to make. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. And I'll also be releasing the results of the US Highway March Madness tournament soon, so stay tuned for that, and I'll let y'all know what that highway will be. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week as we do US 34. Bye!